I would have left months. Don't let me say weeks. Few months into it, but counseling. Because as a Christian, not just a nominal Christian, a strong Christian, born again Christian. That's what they call us. Divorce is. God hates divorce. That's what the church will tell you. God hates divorce. If you divorce your husband, you lose God. God will be angry with you and all that. Of course, no born again Christian wants to hear that, because the foundation of your life, the center of your life is your faith. So when they tell you that you lose your faith or you lose your rights to your faith, if you leave a bad situation, of course you want to stay there let me just suffer, let me endure, maybe it'll work. Why am I complaining? And they will even tell you that all women are going through it. So it took me 4 years to be bold enough to say,
and as a lawyer,
I have a mind of my own.
As a lawyer,
even as a lawyer, so as a lawyer, you wouldn't have expected that I would listen to all those heresies and counseling, knowing my rights and all that. But really, when it comes to the issues of the heart and relationship, your professional life or whatever only comes later. You are first and foremost. You forget. For your first and foremost. A culturalized woman in a culture. Your culture is very strong. And religion too is very strong. Combination of those is terrible. So it took me a while to form an opinion, have a mind of my own, and know that this is about me. I have to save my life. You understand? Then that was when my professional grooming now came into being. When after I formed, I knew I was dying, I had to leave. That was when I now came to my senses. I'm like, babe, as a lawyer, And even then, I can't lie to you. Even when eventually I knew I couldn't go, I was still telling myself I won't divorce because God hates divorce. So I said, I'll separate. See, God does not hate separation. I'll separate, yes. I'll separate and live without a man and still hold on to my faith. So it took me 1 year of living alone without a man to now come when I realized that are you sure you can do without a man? Are you sure you want to let go of your whole life because of one mistake you made? That was when, so it was a progressive thing. So it was during that 1 year that I now came to the realization, no, I don't want to jeopardize my life or sacrifice my life for a mistake I made. And I don't even have to. I formed an opinion that God does not expect me to. My constitution does, as in the Constitution of Nigeria, does not expect me to. And morally, on no grounds am I expected to remain, when the man has moved on. So am I holding myself in this bondage? Who says that I cannot divorce? Who says I have to lose my faith? So I read my Bible, came to my own informed decision. Exactly, yeah. I started my I was even counseled to wait for 2 years. I said no, because really in our constitution, our law, in the matrimony, they will advise you to say 2-3 years.
2-3 years, yes.
So to show that it has really irretrievably broken down. Exactly, yeah.
Imagine that. So, Mr. Ibuse, I'm going to come back to you. Okay. Talking about divorce, I once had an experience, and this I'm going to say because it almost made me lose faith in the judicial process when it comes to divorce and all of that. Okay, the bailiff was supposed to serve this person a letter, okay, and I went with him, okay, and then we were there. We traveled all the way to Lagos. We were there, and I was in the car waiting, and I waited for about 2-3 hours, and then he comes out with 2 bottles of wine, and fried meat. And this was a bailiff that my own lawyer introduced to me. Okay, so there's a lot of corruption going on.
Yeah,
there's a lot of corruption going on. Of course, when I saw those bottles of wine with the fried meat, I knew he had compromised.
Yes.
So I wasn't even surprised when he started saying all sort of things in the past, And I'm like, what were you supposed to do? What are you doing? You were just supposed to serve somebody.
Yes, and leave.
But you took your time, you sat down,
probably ate,
and then took
bottles of wine.
And even along the line, there were some messy situations and all of that. So I want to ask you, how transparent is the judicial process of divorce in Nigeria? How transparent? Before I come back to you, Ms. Biagi, because you've been through it, so I really want to know what your experience was like. Because a lot of women don't even do this because of kind of experience.
Yes, they go through.
Yes.
Well, what the Marriage Causes Act had in mind when section, I think 58 of that act stipulates the framework for divorce. He had transparency in mind. But unfortunately, what we have on paper at times does not translate to what it is meant to be in reality.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, the bailiff that went with you to serve and came back with 2 bottles of wine and fried meat, unfortunately, does not have any impact on your divorce proceedings. He is not the lawyer, he is not the judge, he might not even be part of your witnesses. So the party that served him wine and meat just gave him for free. But if at that part you feel that somebody somewhere has been compromised, it is your right to raise an objection on issues of bias. And I'm sure that no judge, no chief judge of a particular high court of a particular state will hear that and then they will still continue. But however, like I said, the intentions of the draftsman for divorce was for it to be transparent. And that is why when you institute a case for divorce, the court will look at ways of settling the matter first. And that is where the issue of culture that my sister mentioned comes in. Because you'll be like, this thing can work. It's just for the two of you two, you know. And that is why they will do reconciliation and mediation and see that they have exhausted all means of, you know. That is the only time the judge will now assume the duty of pronouncing the marriage has been irretrievably broken down. So the draftsman had the intention that the process should be transparent.
And it should occasion justice.
Yes.
And if I may add to that, while Busara is right that really the bailiff's action does not directly affect, impact the proceedings, it could frustrate it though. Because, you know, some of them, he could use his influence to go and talk, speak, you know, their colleagues, speak to the court clerk, and they will now be delaying and be misrepresenting. No, it was not served, he didn't get it on time, you know, just to frustrate. But then it will not really destroy, if you're a good lawyer, but it could just frustrate you and prolong it. I know people that have been in divorce cases for 5 years. How can you be in court for 5 years? Who does that?
So
imagine someone that's gotten somebody else to marry, is now held
for doing so. You know, holding that person
for 5 years for a divorce proceeding. I know I've heard a lot of horror stories, you know, or a lot of them. So I can really sympathize with what. But that didn't happen to you, did it?
It happened to me.
How long was the divorce process?
Well, it was 2 years.
Wow.
Yes, 2 years. It was long.
And actually, for a marriage that was celebrated statutory, the minimum, because of all the technicalities going back and forth and the way our judicial system is, it can't take less than 2 years. For you to get 2 years, you were lucky. If it is customary court divorce, you can do that within 6 months. You just attested to the fact that somebody.
I was going to come to that.
Are you saying
less period?
Definitely, mine took like 6 months.
Wow,
that's how it should be.
6 months?
Yes.
But that was fast.
Yeah.
Really, that was
very fast.
Okay, so I need to ask.
Very.
What was it like approaching your colleague to represent you?
Yes, that's what I wanted to say. That it's not everybody that has horror stories. Okay, so I have a very good story when it comes to the solution of my failed marriage.
Okay.
It was very embarrassing.
Yes, I wanted you to talk about that.
It was embarrassing.
Yes.
It was embarrassing. It was painful. You know, you relieve the hurt, the pain, the guilt every time you are taking an action over that failed marriage until you heal. Yes. And the healing process takes a while. Now I talk about my divorce without any form of regret, without any form of anger.
Exactly. And that's growth.
Yes,
That's
you
growth.
understand, you know. So I, like, you know, I'm a lawyer, so I just approached my boss.
Oh, so it was your boss?
It was my boss that did it for me.
Oh.
I actually approached my mentor, one of my mentors, the present NBA chairman, Ataladeni. And because she knew me and my ex, she was like, Biade, please, I don't want to get involved. I said, you knew me first. So I was hurt, but I understood her. That's okay. So I just didn't bother asking any of my friends again. Another lawyer that I gave to took my money and didn't do anything.
You can imagine.
Yes. So you face that's just maybe the bad aspect of what my colleague did for me. So the next person I spoke to was my boss. And because while I was in the marriage, I was employed under him, he saw some of the abuses. So I didn't. He was a man. I mean, he's a man.
Sorry, was it domestic violence?
Yes, it was, but it was not physical.
Wow.
So a lot of people, when I talk to them about myself, they're like, kilo wa.
So it was emotional.
It was every other thing but physical.
Wow.
So it was my boss. So when I told her, I was like, well, you have to move on. I've been looking at you that you won. you can't last. Because it was affecting my professional life. It would come over and embarrass me and do all sorts. So my boss knew, but you know a man now, he won't talk. So when I confided, it was like, hallelujah, high time. So that was how he just assigned it to the chambers, took up the case. He never appeared for once. He was a colleague of mine. And because my story, if you hear my story, was really pathetic. So when I got to, it was Justice Aderemi that did it, the woman. Okay. She's retired now. In fact, the whole court, I believe it's God, you know, but I had the whole court in my favor. By the time they called me to the stand to talk about my marriage.
How was it? How was that? You know, having to take the stand, because I did take the stand.
You did?
Well. Yes, I wanted to. Because I didn't want anybody to tell my story.
Yeah.
Not even the lawyer, you know. So I wanted to tell my story. So I did. I took the stand.
Yeah.
And of course, at that point, you know, just like you said, it wasn't anger for me anymore.
Yeah.
It wasn't anger towards anybody, not towards my ex, you know, because of course I believe that we're both adults. It wasn't working, and then we had to go our separate ways. So I just needed to tell my story.
Your freedom.
I wanted my freedom at that point, and that was it.
That was it.
So I took the stand and I told my story.
Yes.
I requested, I wanted to. So what was it like?
Yeah, it was painful. Yes. It was embarrassing.
Did you break down at any point?
I cried.
Yes, I think I did too.
I cried. And in fact, my story was so pathetic that maybe I was embarrassed, but I was also bold. I knew I had to speak. I knew I had to convince the judge for her to know that the marriage has broken down. So I had to talk about a lot of embarrassing situations that I wouldn't have wanted to share in an open court. But because I knew that was the only way she could understand, because my ex did not even appear, which was a plus for me. He didn't come, he didn't have a lawyer.
The reason why
it was so fast. It was so fast. He didn't come. No representation, nothing.
Mine didn't come as well.
Some of them don't come. You see, that's not the only reason, but it's one of it. But the thing is, it just like any other case that we talk about in our profession that they stay too long in court. Really, divorce case is one of the cases that really I'm praying that, you know, it will really be expedited and
so a lot
saving
of
women the torture. So I spoke about my case. My case was like, okay, do you want me to share about my case? Why I divorced my ex?
I want you to talk about one. Then I also want you to talk about the